They say rejection kills slowly, but in Copper Hollow, it happens in front of everyone. 28-year-old Mara Quinn stood on that auction platform watching men turn away like she was diseased. The laughter cut deeper than any blade. She'd traveled 2,000 miles for dignity, only to become the town's punchline. Then he appeared, 6'4" of scarred silence, Elias Varn. The mountain man no one dared approach. He paid double what any woman fetched that day. For her, the unwanted one. Why? That question would lead to gunfire, blood, and a choice that would define everything. Stay with me until the end. Drop a like and comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The wooden platform creaked under Mara's boots. Late afternoon sun cut harsh across Copper Hollow's main square, turning dust into gold and hope into ash. She'd been standing there for 40 minutes. Might as well have been 40 years. "Next lot," the auctioneer called, his voice bored. He didn't even look at her anymore. Mara's dress, the only decent one she owned, stuck to her back with sweat despite the October chill. She'd washed it 3 times in the creek water at the boarding house, pressed it with an iron heated over borrowed coals, braided her dark hair until her scalp ached. None of it mattered. The men gathered below the platform looked through her like she was window glass. "Come now, gentlemen," the auctioneer tried again. His mustache twitched with something between pity and irritation. "Sturdy woman, came all the way from Pennsylvania, can read and write. That's worth something." A man in a brown coat spat tobacco juice into the dirt. "Can she cook?" Mara's throat tightened. "Yes, I can cook. I can sew, keep house, manage accounts." "Asked him, not you." The man didn't even raise his eyes to meet hers. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Not loud. Worse than loud. Casual. The kind of laughter that said she wasn't worth the effort of a real insult. The auctioneer cleared his throat. "Starting bid? $10. Silence. $8? More silence. A woman near the back, one of the previous lots who'd been claimed within minutes, whispered something to her new husband. They both smiled. Mara felt that smile in her stomach like spoiled meat. $5 then. For God's sake, gentlemen. She's plain as a fence post, someone called out. "And old," another added. "What is she, 30? 28, Mara said quietly. Too quietly. No one heard. The auctioneer tugged at his collar. This was bad for business. The town organized these auctions twice a year, bringing women west to marry settlers who needed wives. It was supposed to be dignified, practical, a solution to loneliness on both sides. But dignity required 2 willing parties. "Look, Miss Quinn," the auctioneer's voice dropped, meant only for her. "Maybe you should step down. Try again in the spring. Sometimes the timing just isn't—" "No." The word came out harder than she intended. He blinked. "Pardon?" "I said no." Mara straightened her spine. "I paid my passage, signed the contract. I'm not stepping down. Ain't about the contract, miss. It's about—" He gestured vaguely at the crowd, at their turned backs, their wandering attention. "You can't force a man to bid. Then keep trying." Something flickered across his face. Respect, maybe, or just exhaustion. He turned back to the crowd and raised his voice. "Gentlemen, we have one more lot to clear before supper. I'm asking for any reasonable offer. This woman is unwanted," a voice finished, male, drunk, met with scattered chuckles. Mara's vision blurred. Not tears. She wouldn't give them tears, just rage so hot it distorted the edges of everything. She'd sold her mother's ring to pay for the journey west, spent 3 weeks in a cramped train car with 6 other women who'd whispered and planned their new lives. She'd arrived in Copper Hollow with $2 and a borrowed suitcase. The other 5 women were gone now, claimed, married, starting over. Mara was still on the platform. $5, the auctioneer tried one last time. His voice had gone flat. "Anyone?" A man in the front row met her eyes for half a second. She saw the calculation there, the brief consideration. Then he looked at the woman beside him, blonde, young, already wearing another man's ring, and shook his head. The auctioneer sighed. "Miss Quinn, I really think—" The crowd shifted. It wasn't dramatic. No gasps. No sudden silence. Just a ripple of movement as people turned their heads toward the edge of the square. Mara followed their gaze. A man was walking toward the platform. Walking wasn't quite right. Moving, like weather moves. Inevitable. He was tall, taller than anyone in the crowd. Had to be 6'4" at least. Broad through the shoulders in a way that made his worn coat look small. Dark hair touched with gray, pulled back rough. Beard trimmed close. Face like something carved and then left outside to weather. But it was his eyes that made Mara's breath catch. Gray. Not cold, just clear, like creek water over stone. The crowd parted without anyone meaning to. The man didn't acknowledge them, didn't nod or greet or explain, just walked straight to the platform and stopped. The auctioneer's expression changed. "Mr. Varn, didn't expect to see you in town." The man, Varn, said nothing. His gaze moved to Mara. Held there. She felt stripped down, not in a leering way, nothing crude, just seen, actually looked at for the first time in an hour. She wanted to fidget, smooth her dress, say something clever. Instead, she stood there and let him look. "Well," the auctioneer said, voice suddenly bright with hope, "if you're here for the auction, we have one lot remaining. As you can see." "How much?" Varn's voice was low. Gravel and smoke. Sorry? "How much for her?" The auctioneer blinked rapidly. "We were asking $5, but I'm willing to negotiate 10. "Oh, well, that's very generous, but 20. The square went quiet. Not the dismissive silence from before. Real quiet, the kind that meant people were paying attention. The auctioneer opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "Mr. Varn, that's twice the asking price." "I know." "You don't have to—" "I know." Varn reached into his coat and pulled out a worn leather pouch. He counted out coins onto the platform ledge. Gold. $20 in gold. More money than Mara had seen in one place in her entire life. The auctioneer stared at the coins like they might vanish. "This is highly irregular. Contract's a contract." Varn's eyes never left Mara. "She agreed to marry whoever claimed her. I'm claiming her." "Yes, but—" The auctioneer looked at Mara. Actually, looked at her. "Miss Quinn, do you consent to this arrangement?" Every face in the square turned toward her. The drunk man who'd called her unwanted, the women who'd whispered, the settlers who'd looked through her like fog, and Elias Varn standing silent and strange and absolutely certain. Mara's hands were shaking. She clasped them behind her back. "Yes," she said. The auctioneer hesitated one more second. Then he swept the coins into his lockbox and pulled out a pre-written certificate. Name? Elias Varn. Occupation? Trapper. Residence? Thunder Ridge. The auctioneer's hand paused. He looked up. Thunder Ridge? That's 3 days into the mountains. 4 in winter. Mr. Varn, I'm obligated to inform the bride. She can hear. Varn glanced at Mara. You afraid of mountains? It was the first question anyone had asked her directly in hours. Mara shook her head. Snow? No. Being alone? She almost laughed. No. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite a smile, just acknowledgement. He turned back to the auctioneer. We settled? The man finished writing and held out the certificate. You'll need to have this witnessed and filed within 30 days for the marriage to be legal. Varn took the paper, folded it once, and tucked it inside his coat. Then he looked at Mara again. You have belongings? A suitcase. At the boarding house. Get it. It wasn't a command, just a statement of what needed to happen next. Mara nodded and stepped down from the platform. Her legs felt strange, wooden. She'd been standing so long the blood had pooled in her feet. Varn fell into step beside her. He didn't offer his arm, didn't make conversation, just walked with her through the square toward the boarding house at the end of Main Street. Behind them, the crowd erupted into whispers. That's Elias Varn. Lives up on Thunder Ridge by himself. Hasn't been to town in over a year. Why do you want her? Mara heard every word, felt them like stones against her back. But Varn didn't react, didn't slow or turn or acknowledge the talk, so she didn't either. The boarding house smelled like boiled cabbage and old wood. The landlady, Mrs. Pritchard, pinch-faced and practical, stood in the doorway with Mara's suitcase already in hand. Heard the news, she said, not unkindly. You're paid through tonight, but I figured you'd be leaving. Thank you. Mara took the suitcase. It wasn't heavy. Everything she owned fit inside with room to spare. Mrs. Pritchard's eyes flicked to Varn, then back to Mara. You sure about this? Yes. Thunder Ridge is rough country. I know. That was a lie. Mara didn't know anything about Thunder Ridge except that it was far from here, far from the platform, far from the laughter. That was enough. Mrs. Pritchard pressed her lips together but said nothing else, just stepped aside. Varn took the suitcase from Mara without asking, started walking. She followed. His horse was tied at the edge of town, a big sorrel gelding with patient eyes and scarred knees. Varn secured the suitcase to the saddle with practiced efficiency. Then he mounted and held down a hand. Mara stared at it, broad palm, calloused fingers, a white scar across the knuckles. You can ride? He asked. Yes. Behind me, then. She took his hand. His grip was warm and very strong. He pulled her up like she weighed nothing. She settled behind the saddle, boots dangling, and tried to figure out where to put her hands. Hold on, Varn said. To what? Me. Mara hesitated. Then she wrapped her arms around his waist. He was solid, warm through the coat. He smelled like wood smoke and pine and something else. Leather, maybe. Or just distance. He clicked his tongue. The horse moved forward, slow at first, then faster as they left the square behind, left the boarding house and the whispers and the platform where Mara had stood like livestock waiting to be chosen. They rode in silence. The land opened up around them, rolling hills covered in dry grass, scattered trees going gold with autumn. The sky was enormous, bigger than any sky Mara had known back east. It made her feel small, but not invisible, just placed, like she was exactly where she was supposed to be, even if she didn't understand why. After an hour, Varn spoke. You hungry? Mara realized she was. She'd been too nervous to eat that morning. Yes. He steered the horse toward a line of cottonwoods near a creek, dismounted, helped her down. She stood awkwardly while he unsaddled the horse and let it drink. Then he pulled a cloth bundle from his pack and unwrapped it. Bread, hard cheese, dried meat. He handed her half of everything, didn't speak, just ate. Mara bit into the bread. It was good, dense and nutty, homemade. You bake this? She asked. Yes. It's good. He nodded, kept eating. Silence stretched again. Not uncomfortable, just there. Mara finished the bread and started on the cheese. Around them, the creek muttered over stones. The horse tore at grass. Evening light slanted gold through the cottonwood leaves. Finally, Mara couldn't stand it anymore. Why did you choose me? Varn looked at her, those pale gray eyes steady and calm. You looked like you could endure. The answer hit her like cold water. Not flattery, not pity, just truth. That's it? Her voice came out sharper than she meant. That's enough. Mara set down the cheese. You paid $20 for someone who can endure? Yes. That's not a reason. It's the only reason that matters. Varn wiped his hands on his pants. I live 4 days from town. Winter up there lasts 7 months. The wind'll strip skin off your bones if you let it. I needed someone who wouldn't break. And you could tell that by looking at me. Yes. How? He considered the question, took his time. The way you stood on that platform. They were laughing. You didn't run, didn't cry, didn't beg. You just stood there and took it. He met her eyes. That's not weakness. That's spine. Something cracked open in Mara's chest. Not quite pain, not quite relief, just recognition. Like hearing her own language spoken after years of silence. What if I'm not strong enough? She asked quietly. Then we'll figure it out. What if I hate it up there? You might. What if I can't do what you need? Varn stood and started packing away the food. Then you can't. I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for willing. I'm willing. I know. He glanced at her. You wouldn't have said yes otherwise. They rode until dark. The land changed as they climbed. The grass gave way to scrub pine. The air turned sharp with altitude. Mara's fingers went numb where they gripped Varn's coat. She pressed closer to his back for warmth. He didn't comment, just rode steady. When full dark came, he found a sheltered spot beneath an overhang of rock. Built a fire with quick efficiency. Laid out bedrolls. Mara watched, feeling useless. Can I help? She asked. You know how to make coffee? Yes. He pointed to his pack. Pot's in there. Creek's 20 yards that way. Mara found the pot and the coffee. Walked to the creek in near darkness, guided by sound. The water was ice cold. It made her hands ache. She filled the pot and carried it back to the fire. Varn had already set up a tripod of green branches. She hung the pot and measured out coffee grounds. They sat in silence while it boiled. You've done this before, Varn said. Not a question. Camping? No, but I worked in a kitchen for 3 years. I know how to make do. He nodded, poured coffee when it was ready, handed her a tin cup. Mara wrapped her hands around it. The heat felt like salvation. Thank you. For the coffee? For choosing me. Varn studied her over the rim of his cup. Don't thank me yet. You haven't seen Thunder Ridge. Will I like it? Probably not at first. But later? Maybe. He set down his cup. It's beautiful. But beauty doesn't keep you warm, doesn't fill your belly. You'll have to work, hard, every day. I'm used to work. Not like this. Mara sipped her coffee. It was strong, bitter, perfect. Why did you leave town? Before, I mean. Why live alone up there? Liked it better. Better than people? Yes. Then why bring me? Varn was quiet for a long time. The fire cracked. Sparks rose into the darkness like dying stars. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. I'm 43 years old. Lived alone since I was 25. Thought that's how I'd die. But last winter I broke my leg. Snapped it clean, falling through ice. Took me 6 hours to crawl back to the cabin. He stared into the fire. Realized if I'd knocked my head or bled out, no one would have found me till spring. Maybe not even then. Mara waited. I don't want company, Varn continued. Don't need conversation or comfort, but I need someone there. Someone I can count on if things go bad. Someone who won't fold when it gets hard. So I'm insurance, Mara said. No bitterness, just clarity. Varn looked at her. You're practical, same as me. It was the most honest thing anyone had ever said to her. Mara felt something settle in her chest, something like acceptance. All right, she said. All right. I can be practical. Varn's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Good. They finished their coffee in silence. Then Varn banked the fire and pointed to one of the bedrolls. That one's yours. We'll leave at dawn. Mara crawled into the bedroll fully clothed. It smelled like pine and smoke. She lay on her back, staring at stars so thick they looked like snow. Behind her, she heard Varn settling into his own bedroll. Mr. Varn, she said into the darkness. Elias. Elias. What happens when we get to Thunder Ridge? We survive the winter. And after that? We survive the next one. Mara closed her eyes, listened to the fire dying, the creek running, Elias breathing slow and steady 10 feet away. For the first time in months, maybe years, she felt something unfamiliar. Not quite hope, but close. She slept. Dawn came cold and gray. Mara woke to the smell of coffee already brewing and bacon sizzling in a pan. Elias was crouched by the fire, turning the meat with a knife. She sat up. Her back ached. Her hair had come loose from its braid. Morning? Morning. He didn't look up. There's water in the canteen if you want to wash. Mara found the canteen and walked to the creek. The morning air bit through her dress. She splashed water on her face and hands, gasping at the cold. When she looked up, the mountains were visible in the distance. Massive. Snow-capped even now in October. Thunder Ridge. Her new home. She felt a flutter of something in her stomach. Not fear, something else. When she returned to the fire, Elias handed her a plate. Bacon, bread, and the last of the cheese. They ate quickly, efficiently. Then Elias packed everything away and saddled the horse. They rode. The second day was harder than the first. The land tilted up. The horse labored. Mara's legs cramped from gripping the saddle. But she didn't complain. Elias didn't either. He just rode. By midday, they were deep into pine forest. The trees grew so thick the sunlight barely penetrated. Everything smelled green and damp and ancient. Mara heard things moving in the underbrush, saw shapes that might have been deer or elk or something else. Bears up here? She asked. Yes. Many? Enough. Will they bother us? Not if we're smart. That seemed to be the end of the conversation. Mara went back to holding on. They stopped twice more that day. Once to rest the horse. Once to refill the canteen at a spring. Elias shared his food without comment. Gave her the larger portion. Mara noticed but said nothing. By nightfall they'd climbed high enough that Mara's ears popped. The air was thin and cold. Elias built another fire, made another meal. They ate in silence. How much farther? Mara asked. 2 more days. And then? Then we're home. Home. The word sat strange in Mara's mouth. She'd had rooms, boarding houses, places she'd slept. But home? She wasn't sure she'd ever had one of those. That night she dreamed of the auction platform, of standing alone while men turned away. But in the dream, she didn't feel shame, just tired. When she woke, frost covered her bedroll. Elias was already awake, breaking down camp. The 3rd day was brutal. The trail, if it could be called that, switchbacked up slopes so steep Mara had to lean forward to keep from sliding backward. The horse struggled. Sweat darkened its coat despite the cold. Elias walked beside the animal, leading it by the reins. He didn't ask Mara to walk too, just took the extra weight himself. Around noon, snow started to fall. Not heavy, just scattered flakes that caught in Mara's hair and melted on her cheeks. She watched them fall and thought about Pennsylvania, about the factory where she'd sewn shirts for 12 hours a day, about the boarding house where she'd shared a room with 3 other women, about her mother's grave in a cemetery she'd never visit again. You cold? Elias called back. No, Mara lied. He stopped, turned, studied her face. Then he shrugged out of his coat and held it up. Put this on. You'll freeze. I'm moving. You're sitting. Put it on. Mara took the coat. It was heavy and warm and smelled like him. She wrapped it around her shoulders and immediately felt better. Elias went back to walking. He wore only a wool shirt now. His breath puffed white in the cold. But he didn't slow, didn't complain. Mara watched him and felt something shift inside her. Respect, maybe. Or just recognition. He was a man who said what he meant and did what he said. No games, no lies, just action. She could work with that. By evening, they reached a plateau. Elias stopped and pointed. There. Mara looked. Through the trees, she could see it. A cabin, larger than she'd expected. Built from dark logs chinked with pale clay. Smoke rose from a stone chimney. Windows glowed with firelight. Someone was inside. Mara's stomach dropped. You didn't say you had help. I don't. Then who? Left coals banked before I came to town. Fire'll last 3 days if you do it right. Relief flooded through her. Of course, he'd planned this, all of it. They rode the last half-mile in near darkness. When they reached the cabin, Elias dismounted and helped Mara down. Her legs nearly buckled. 3 days in the saddle had turned her muscles to rope. Elias steadied her with one hand. All right? Yes. He let go. Led the horse to a small barn set back from the cabin. Mara stood alone in the yard and looked around. The plateau was maybe 2 acres, surrounded by pine. To the east, the land dropped away into darkness. She could hear water running somewhere below. A river, maybe. Or just runoff from snowmelt. The cabin itself sat solid and square. Smoke still trailed from the chimney. Light flickered behind oiled paper windows. It looked like something from a storybook. Or a dream. Elias emerged from the barn and walked past her to the cabin door. He pushed it open and stepped inside. After a moment, Mara followed. Heat hit her like a wall. The fire in the hearth was low but steady. The room smelled like wood smoke and dried herbs and something cooking. Mara blinked, letting her eyes adjust. The cabin was one large room, a bed in the corner, a table and 2 chairs, shelves lined with books, jars, tools, a wash basin, a trunk. Everything clean, everything in its place. This is it, Elias said. Mara turned slowly, taking it in. You built this? Yes. All of it? Yes. She walked to the shelves, ran her fingers over the book spines, poetry, philosophy, field guides, novels. You read? When there's time. And you cook? Have to eat. Mara picked up a jar, peaches preserved in syrup. The label was written in neat, careful handwriting. You did this too? Yes. She set the jar down, looked at him. You don't need a wife. You need a partner. Elias met her eyes. What do you think a wife is? The question hung between them. Mara didn't have an answer. Elias crossed to the hearth and added wood to the fire. There's stew in the pot. Should still be good. Bowls are on the shelf. Mara found the bowls, ladled out stew. It was venison and root vegetables and barley. Simple but good. They ate at the table without speaking. When they finished, Elias collected the bowls and washed them in the basin. Then he pointed to the bed. That's yours tonight. I'll take the floor. Mara stared at him. What? The bed. It's yours. Where will you sleep? Floor. That's ridiculous. It's how it is. We're married, Mara said. The word felt strange, formal. Or near enough. We can share. Elias turned to look at her. His expression was unreadable. You sure? I've shared beds before, with sisters. Roommates. It's practical. Something flickered across his face. Practical. Yes. He nodded slowly. All right, but you take the inside, against the wall. Why? So if something comes through the door, it gets me first. Mara's skin prickled. What would come through the door? Probably nothing, but I'd rather be sure. He said it so calmly, like he was talking about weather. Mara realized this was his world now, hers too, a place where survival mattered more than comfort. She climbed into the bed fully clothed. The mattress was stuffed with something soft, pine boughs maybe, or dried grass. It smelled clean. Elias banked the fire and lay down on top of the blankets. He kept his boots on, his knife within reach. Elias? Mara said into the darkness. Yeah? Thank you for bringing me here. He was quiet for a moment. Then, you might change your mind come February. Maybe. But for now, I'm glad I'm here. She heard him shift, settle. Get some sleep, Mara. Tomorrow, we start working. Mara closed her eyes. Outside, wind moved through the pines. Somewhere in the distance, an animal called, low and mournful. But inside the cabin, the fire burned warm. And for the first time since her mother died, Mara felt something she'd almost forgotten. Safe. She slept. Mara woke to the sound of an axe biting wood. Rhythmic, steady. She opened her eyes to gray dawn light filtering through the cabin windows. The space beside her on the bed was empty but still warm. She sat up, disoriented. Her body ached in places she didn't know could ache. 3 days on horseback, followed by a night on an unfamiliar mattress, had left her stiff as old leather. The fire was already crackling. A pot of coffee sat on the hearth. Steam rose from a bowl of something on the table. Oats, maybe? Mara stood and walked to the window. Outside, Elias was splitting wood. He'd stripped down to his shirt despite the cold. Each swing of the axe was precise, controlled. The wood fell in clean halves. Mara watched him for a moment. Then she turned to the basin, splashed water on her face, and braided her hair. The coffee was strong enough to strip paint. She poured a cup and sat at the table. The oats were still warm. She ate slowly, studying the cabin in daylight. Everything had a purpose. Nothing wasted. The books were organized by size. The tools hung in order of use. Even the firewood was stacked by thickness. This was a man who lived deliberately. The door opened. Elias stepped inside carrying an armload of split wood. He glanced at her. You're up. Couldn't sleep through all that chopping. Should have woken you earlier. Sun's been up an hour. Mara checked the light. He was right. I'm used to starting later. Can't do that here. Winter's close. We lose daylight every day now. He stacked the wood by the hearth and wiped his hands on his pants. You eat? Yes, thank you. He nodded and poured himself coffee. Drank it standing. I need to check the trap line today. You can come or stay. Your choice. What's a trap line? Traps set in a circuit through the woods, mostly for marten and fox, sometimes beaver if I'm lucky. He refilled his cup. Takes most of the day to walk it. I'll come. Elias looked at her. It's rough walking and cold. I'll manage. He studied her face for a moment, then nodded. Wear extra socks. Your boots aren't good enough for this terrain. Mara looked down at her worn leather boots. They'd been fine in Pennsylvania. Here, they looked like toys. I don't have extra socks. I do. Elias crossed to the trunk and pulled out 2 pairs of thick wool socks. Tossed them to her. Put both pairs on. It'll help. The socks were enormous. Mara had to fold the tops twice to keep them up, but they were warm. And when she put her boots back on, they fit better. Snugger. Elias watched her tie the laces. You know how to walk in snow? I'm from Pennsylvania. We have snow. Not like here. Step where I step. Don't wander. And if you feel yourself going through ice, spread your weight and yell. Mara's stomach tightened. Ice? There's a creek that feeds the plateau. It freezes uneven, easy to break through if you're not careful. He pulled on his coat. Just pay attention. You'll be fine. They left the cabin as full morning broke. The air was sharp enough to make Mara's lungs hurt. Frost coated everything, the trees, the ground. Even the grass growing between rocks looked frozen solid. Elias led them into the forest at a steady pace. Not fast, just constant. He moved like he knew every root and stone by memory. Mara followed, trying to match his stride. The first trap was a 1/4 mile in. Elias knelt beside it and swore softly. What? Mara asked. Sprung. Nothing in it. He reset the mechanism with quick hands. Something small, squirrel maybe, took the bait and got away. He moved to the next trap. This one held a marten, small, dark fur, very dead. Elias removed the animal and reset the trap without ceremony. He tied the marten to his belt and kept walking. Does that bother you? He asked after a moment. The trapping? Yes. Mara thought about it. No? Should it? Some women can't stomach it. I worked in a factory that processed chickens. I've seen worse. Elias glanced back at her. Something shifted in his expression. Approval, maybe? Or just recognition? They walked for hours, trap to trap. Some were empty. Some held animals. By midday, Elias had 4 marten, 2 fox, and a beaver. The pelts hung from his belt like grisly trophies. Mara's legs burned. Her lungs ached from the altitude. But she didn't complain, just followed. Around noon, Elias stopped at a fallen log and sat. He pulled out bread and dried meat, handed half to Mara. They ate in silence. Around them, the forest was quiet. No birds, no wind, just the sound of their own breathing. Why here? Mara asked finally. Elias chewed slowly, swallowed. Why what? Why live all the way up here? There's nothing, no town, no people, just trees and cold. He took another bite, chewed, thinking. I was in the war, he said finally. After, I couldn't stand crowds. Too much noise, too many people wanting things. He stared at the trees. Up here, it's simple. Hunt, trap, cut wood, survive. No one asking questions, no one needing answers. You don't miss it? Civilization? No. What about company? I have company now. He looked at her. Don't I? Mara felt heat rise in her cheeks. I meant before. Before I was alone. That was fine too. But you came to town. You chose me. I did. Why? You said I looked like I could endure, but there's more to it than that. Elias was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was low. Careful. I'm getting older. My hands shake sometimes in the cold. My eyes aren't as sharp. Last winter I got sick. Fever. Was down for a week. Nearly died because I couldn't keep the fire going. He met her gaze. I don't want to die alone on this mountain, but I also don't want someone who'll try to change me. I saw you standing on that platform, taking all that ridicule, and I thought, there's a woman who knows how to survive without needing the world to be kind. He paused. I need that kind of strength. Not softness, strength. The words settled between them like stones. I'm not strong, Mara said quietly. You're still here. That's not strength. That's just stubbornness. Same thing, most days. Mara looked at the bread in her hands, thought about the auction, the laughter, the months before that, working herself raw just to afford the journey west. I don't know what I am anymore. You're alive, Elias said. That's enough. They finished eating and kept walking. The afternoon stretched long and cold. Mara's feet went numb inside the borrowed socks. Her hands ached even inside her gloves, but she kept moving. The last trap was set near the creek Elias had warned her about. The ice looked solid, black and smooth. But when Elias stepped on it, Mara heard it groan. "Stay back," he said. She obeyed. He crossed carefully, testing each step, retrieved the trap, empty, reset it, started back. Halfway across, the ice cracked. Not broke, just cracked. A sound like a gunshot. Elias froze. "Don't move." Mara's heart hammered. "What do I do?" "Nothing. Just stay there." He shifted his weight slowly. The ice groaned again. Then he moved, fast. 3 long strides, and he was off the ice and onto solid ground. He stood there breathing hard. That was close. How close? Close enough. He looked at the creek. It's freezing uneven this year, too warm in October. Ice isn't thick enough yet. Should we go a different way back? No, just careful. They walked the long way around. By the time they reached the cabin, the sun was low and red. Mara's legs trembled with exhaustion. Inside, Elias built up the fire and hung a pot of water to heat. Then he laid the pelts on the table and started skinning them. Mara watched for a moment, then she crossed to the shelves. What needs doing? For what? For dinner. For the cabin. What can I do? Elias paused mid-cut. You don't have to... I know, but I'm here. I should be useful, he considered. There's a sack of potatoes in the corner. If you can peel and boil them, we'll have something besides meat tonight. Mara found the potatoes. Also carrots. Also onions. She peeled everything and put it in the pot with water and salt. Set it to boil. Then she swept the floor. Organized the shelves. Folded the blankets. Elias worked on the pelts, glancing at her occasionally but saying nothing. By the time the food was ready, full dark had fallen. They ate at the table. The potatoes were bland but filling. Elias added butter from a crock he kept cool in the corner. It helped. You didn't have to clean, he said. I wanted to. Why? Mara set down her fork. Because this is my home now too, and if I'm going to live here, I need to be part of it, not just a guest. Elias looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Fair enough. After dinner, Mara washed the dishes while Elias finished stretching the pelts. He worked with the kind of focus she was starting to recognize. Total. Complete. Like nothing else existed. When he was done, he stood and stretched. His back cracked audibly. I'm going to wash, he said. There's soap by the basin. He stripped off his shirt. Mara turned away quickly. Not out of modesty exactly, just surprise. She'd shared the bed with him the night before but hadn't really looked. Now she couldn't help but see. Scars. Everywhere. Long white lines across his ribs. A puckered circle on his shoulder. Something that looked like a burn on his lower back. He caught her staring. From the war, he said simply. All of them? Most. Does it hurt? Not anymore. He dipped a rag in the warm water and started washing. You get used to it. Mara turned back to the dishes, focused on scrubbing. Behind her, she heard him moving, water dripping, cloth against skin. When she finally turned around, he'd put on a clean shirt and was sitting by the fire, oiling his boots. Can I ask you something? Mara said. Go ahead. What happened to your wife? Elias's hand stopped moving. What makes you think I had one? You said you've been alone since you were 25. That's specific. Like something happened that year. He resumed oiling the boots. I was engaged, before the war. Her name was Caroline. She waited 3 years. Then I came back and she took one look at me and knew I wasn't the same man. He set down the rag. Can't blame her. I wasn't. What did you do? Let her go. Came up here. Built the cabin. He stared into the fire. Haven't thought about her in years. Do you regret it? No. She married a banker, has 4 children. She's happy. He looked at Mara. I'm not built for that kind of life. Never was. War just made it obvious. Mara sat down across from him. What kind of life are you built for? This one. He gestured at the cabin. The fire, the darkness pressing against the windows. Simple, quiet, honest. Lonely, sometimes. He met her eyes. Less now. Something warm uncurled in Mara's chest. She looked away, suddenly shy. I should sleep. I'm exhausted. Go ahead. I'll bank the fire. Mara climbed into bed. The sheets were cold. She curled on her side, facing the wall, and listened to Elias moving around the cabin. The scrape of the poker, the soft thud of a log settling, his boots hitting the floor. Then the bed dipped as he lay down. He stayed on his side. Didn't touch her, but she could feel his warmth, hear his breathing. Elias? She whispered. Yeah? Thank you, for today, for showing me the trapline. You did good, kept up, didn't complain. I wanted to. But you didn't, that matters. Mara smiled in the darkness. Good night. Good night, Mara. She closed her eyes and let exhaustion take her. The days that followed fell into a rhythm. Wake at dawn, coffee and oats, work, Elias checking traps or chopping wood or mending tools, Mara cooking, cleaning, learning the 100 small tasks that kept a cabin livable. It wasn't easy. The altitude made her breathless. The cold made her clumsy. She burned dinner twice, knocked over a jar of preserved beans, cut her hand slicing carrots. Elias never scolded, just showed her how to do things better, how to cut with the grain, how to build a fire that lasted, how to read the sky for weather. In return, Mara taught him things she didn't realize she knew, how to make bread that didn't taste like rocks, how to organize supplies so nothing spoiled, how to mend shirts so the stitches didn't show. They worked side by side, spoke when necessary, otherwise kept quiet. It was the most peaceful Mara had ever been. 2 weeks in, the first real snow came. Mara woke to silence, the kind of silence that only happens when the world is covered in white. She went to the window and stared. Snow blanketed everything. The trees sagged under the weight. The plateau looked like a different world, clean, untouched. Beautiful, isn't it? Elias said behind her. Mara jumped. She hadn't heard him wake. Yes. Also dangerous. That's 2 feet at least. More coming tonight. He crossed to the shelves and started pulling down supplies. We need to check the barn, make sure the horse has enough feed, and bring in more wood. Once this really sets in, we won't be able to get out for days. They spent the morning preparing, hauling wood, checking the barn, securing shutters. Mara's hands went numb even inside gloves. Her breath puffed white. But she worked. By afternoon, the cabin was ready. Stocked. Sealed. Elias built up the fire and made stew. They ate in comfortable silence. That night, the wind came. It screamed around the cabin like something alive. Mara lay in bed listening to it and felt small, insignificant. You all right? Elias asked. Just listening. It'll blow itself out by morning. Does it scare you? The wind? Used to, not anymore. Why not? Because I learned the cabin can take it, and so can I. He shifted in the bed. You'll learn too. Mara pulled the blankets tighter. What if I don't? Then you'll leave come spring. The answer was so matter-of-fact it startled her. You'd let me go? I'm not keeping you prisoner, Mara. You're here because you chose to be. If that changes, you go. Simple as that. And the marriage contract? Paper. Doesn't mean anything if you're miserable. Mara turned to look at him in the darkness. You really believe that? I do. Then why go through with it at all? Elias was quiet. Then, because I hoped it'd work. Still do. What if it doesn't? Then it doesn't. But I'd rather try and fail than spend another winter alone. Mara felt something crack open inside her, not breaking, opening. I'm not going anywhere, she said quietly. No. No, I like it here. Even with the wind? Even with the wind. She heard him exhale, a sound that might have been relief. Good. They lay in silence. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, the fire burned low and warm. Mara closed her eyes and let herself feel it. The warmth, the safety, the strange, unexpected sense of belonging. For the first time since leaving Pennsylvania, she felt like she'd made the right choice. The storm lasted 3 days. Snow piled against the cabin walls. The wind tore shingles from the barn roof. Mara and Elias stayed inside, reading by firelight and playing cards with a worn deck Elias kept in the trunk. He taught her poker. She beat him twice. "You're cheating," he said without heat. "I'm counting." "Same thing." "No, cheating is dishonest. Counting is strategy." Elias smiled, actually smiled. It changed his whole face, made him look younger. "You're trouble. You're just a sore loser." He gathered the cards and shuffled. "One more hand." "What are we playing for?" "Winner picks dinner." "Deal." Mara won again. She made him cook pancakes with the last of the syrup. On the fourth day, the storm broke. Mara woke to sunlight so bright it hurt. She went to the window and gasped. The world was glass. Every tree, every branch, every blade of grass encased in ice. When the wind blew, they chimed like bells. "Ice storm," Elias said, "happens sometimes after heavy snow. Temperature drops fast. Everything freezes. It's beautiful. And deadly. Ice that thick will snap branches. Sometimes whole trees." He pulled on his coat. "I need to check the barn. Make sure nothing fell on the roof." "I'm coming." Outside the air was so cold it burned. Mara's breath froze on her scarf. Every step crunched loud. The barn was intact. The horse nickered when they entered. Elias checked its feed and water while Mara stood shivering. Then she heard it. A crack like a rifle shot. "Down!" Elias grabbed her and pulled her against the wall. A massive branch crashed through the barn roof. It missed them by inches. Snow and ice rained down. They stood frozen, breathing hard. "You all right?" Elias's hands were on her shoulders. "Yes. You?" "Fine." He looked at the branch, then the hole in the roof. "Damn. Can we fix it?" "Have to. Can't leave it open." He released her and surveyed the damage. "I'll need to clear the branch and patch the hole before nightfall. Otherwise the horse will freeze. Tell me what to do." They worked until dark, clearing debris, cutting the branch into manageable pieces, hauling canvas to cover the hole. By the time they finished, Mara's hands were bleeding through her gloves. Elias saw. He took her hands gently and peeled off the gloves. Her palms were raw, blistered. "Why didn't you say something?" His voice was tight. "We had to finish. Not at the cost of—" He stopped, took a breath. "Come inside." In the cabin, he heated water and made her soak her hands. The pain was intense. Mara bit her lip to keep from crying out. Elias knelt beside her and cleaned the wounds with steady hands. Then he applied salve that smelled like pine and wrapped her palms in clean cloth. "This is going to hurt for a few days," he said. "No heavy work until they heal. But no arguments." He met her eyes. "You're no good to me injured. Rest." It was the closest thing to anger she'd heard from him. Mara nodded. That night she couldn't sleep. Her hands throbbed. Every position felt wrong. Elias heard her shifting. "You need something for the pain? Do you have anything?" He got up and rummaged through a box, came back with a small bottle. "Whiskey. It'll help." Mara drank. The liquor burned going down but warmed her from the inside. After a few minutes, the pain dulled. "Better?" Elias asked. "Yes. Thank you." He settled back into bed. "You did good today. Most people would have quit." "I'm not most people." "No, you're not." Mara smiled in the darkness, closed her eyes, let the whiskey and exhaustion pull her under. She dreamed of ice and fire, and hands that held her steady when the world fell apart. Her hands healed slowly. 10 days before she could grip an axe handle without wincing. 2 weeks before the blisters faded to calluses. Elias watched her carefully during that time, redirecting her to lighter tasks whenever she reached for something heavy. It irritated her at first. Then she realized he wasn't doubting her strength. He was protecting his investment. A crippled partner was useless on Thunder Ridge. November came hard and fast. The snow piled higher. The temperature dropped until even the inside of the cabin windows frosted overnight. Mara woke one morning to find her breath visible even under the blankets. "Fire went out," Elias said. He was already dressed, crouched by the hearth. "Coals died sometime before dawn." "Why didn't you wake me?" "You need sleep more than you need to tend fire." He coaxed flame from kindling and fed it carefully. "Besides, I'm used to cold." Mara sat up, pulling the blankets around her shoulders. How cold does it get up here? Cold enough that spit freezes before it hits the ground. She stared at him. You're joking. No. He added larger wood to the growing fire. January and February are the worst. We'll stay inside mostly. Go out only when we have to. For how long? 2 months. Maybe 3 if spring comes late. The thought of being trapped inside for 3 months made Mara's chest tighten, but she didn't say anything, just watched Elias work. By mid-morning, the cabin had warmed enough to function. Mara made coffee and oats while Elias checked their food stores. He kept a running inventory and a ledger, noting what they used and what remained. We're low on flour, he said. How low? 2 weeks if we're careful, maybe 3. Is there more in town? Yes, but town's 4 days away in good weather. In this snow, it'd be 6, maybe 7. He closed the ledger. I should have bought more in October. Why didn't you? Wasn't planning on 2 people. He looked at her. You eat more than I expected. Mara felt heat rise in her face. I can eat less. That's not what I meant. You work hard. You need fuel. He stood and walked to the window. I'll have to make a supply run before December. After that, the passes will be snowed in until March. When will you go? Next week if the weather holds. I'm coming with you. Elias turned. No. Why not? Because it's dangerous. The trail's narrow. 1 wrong step and you're dead. Then you shouldn't go either. I've done it 100 times. Not in snow this deep. They stared at each other. Mara could feel the argument building, but before either could speak, they heard it. A sound. Faint. Coming from outside. Elias went still. Did you hear that? Yes. What was it? Don't know. He crossed to the door and grabbed his rifle. Stay inside. Elias, stay inside. He opened the door and stepped out into the cold. Mara waited, counting seconds. Outside, she heard nothing, just wind and silence. Then a shout. She grabbed her coat and ran outside. Elias was standing in the yard, rifle lowered, staring at something near the tree line. Mara followed his gaze and froze. A man. Stumbling through the snow. He was maybe 40 yards away, moving like he was drunk or injured. Blood darkened the snow behind him. Help! The man called. His voice was thin, desperate. Please! Elias raised the rifle. That's far enough. The man stopped, swayed. I need help. I've been walking for 2 days. Who are you? Thomas? Thomas Farrell? From Copper Hollow. He took another step and nearly fell. Please, I'm freezing. Stay where you are. Elias didn't lower the rifle. He glanced at Mara. Get inside. He's hurt. I said get inside. The coldness in his voice froze her. She'd never heard him sound like that. She backed toward the cabin but didn't go in. Elias called to the man. What happened to you? Attacked. 2 days ago on the road. They took my horse, my supplies, everything. Thomas collapsed to his knees. Please, I just need shelter. I'll leave in the morning. Who attacked you? Men, 3 of them, said they were... He coughed. Blood flecked his lips. Said they were looking for someone. A woman. Mara's stomach dropped. Elias's grip tightened on the rifle. What woman? Don't know. They didn't say a name, just kept asking if I'd seen a woman traveling alone. Said she was property. Said there's a bounty. Thomas coughed again, harder. Please, I'm dying out here. Elias didn't move for a long moment. Then he lowered the rifle slightly. Can you walk? Barely. Walk to the barn, not the cabin. The barn. Understand? Thomas nodded and struggled to his feet. He made it 10 steps before collapsing face first in the snow. Elias swore and handed Mara the rifle. Keep this on him. If he moves wrong, shoot him. What? I can't. Yes, you can. Safety's off. Just point and pull. He walked toward Thomas. Mara's hands shook as she raised the rifle. She'd never held a gun before. The weight was wrong, foreign. Elias reached Thomas and hauled him upright, half carried, half dragged him toward the barn. Thomas's head lolled. His feet barely moved. They disappeared inside. Mara stood alone in the yard, holding the rifle, trying to process what she'd just heard. Men. Looking for a woman. Property. Bounty. They were looking for her. She'd known this could happen. The marriage broker in Pennsylvania had warned her. Some contracts had clauses, obligations. If a woman failed to marry within the specified time, or if the marriage wasn't consummated, or if there were debts, Mara's contract had been clean. She'd read it 3 times. But contracts could be forged, rewritten. She'd heard stories of women trapped in arrangements they didn't understand until it was too late. The barn door opened. Elias emerged alone. He walked to Mara and took the rifle. "Is he alive?" she asked. "Barely. Frostbite, infection. He won't make it more than a day or 2. "We have to help him." "I gave him blankets and water. That's help." "Elias, he's not coming in the cabin." His voice was flat, final. "I don't know him, don't trust him, and I'm not risking you." "Risking me?" "Those men he mentioned, they're looking for someone. Maybe they're looking for you." Mara's throat tightened. "I don't know why they would be. My contract was paid. I didn't owe anyone. Contracts can be bought and sold, you know that." He stared at her. "Did you leave anyone behind? Anyone who'd want you back?" "No, my mother's dead. I have no siblings, no husband or—" She stopped. "There was a man in Pennsylvania. He wanted to marry me." "What happened?" "I said no." "Did he accept that?" Mara thought about Edmund Crow, 40 years old, owned a textile mill. He'd proposed twice. She'd refused both times. The second time he'd grabbed her arm hard enough to bruise. "He wasn't happy," she said quietly. Elias's jaw tightened. "What's his name?" "Edmund Crow. But he doesn't have the money to send men all the way out here." "Men like that always have money." Elias looked toward the barn. "And if he's connected to anyone with reach—" He stopped. His expression changed. "What?" Mara asked. "Harlan Crow. Owns half the land between here and Copper Hollow. Big operation. Cattle, timber, mining claims." Elias met her eyes. "Any relation to your Edmund?" Mara felt cold settle in her bones. "He mentioned a brother. Out west. But I didn't think— You didn't think a rich man's brother would let his rejection stand." Elias turned toward the cabin. "Get inside. We need to prepare." "Prepare for what?" "For them to find us." Inside, Elias moved with sharp efficiency. He pulled guns from hidden places, a shotgun from under the bed, 2 pistols from a box in the trunk, a rifle wrapped in oilcloth beneath the floorboards. He lined them up on the table and started cleaning them. Mara watched, her heart hammering. "You think they'll come here?" "Yes." "When?" "Soon. If Thomas found us, they can too." He loaded the shotgun. "Trail's not hidden. Anyone with sense can follow it." "What do we do?" Elias looked at her. His eyes were calm, cold. "We defend, and we don't let them take you." Maybe if I go back—" "No." The word cracked like a whip. "You're not going anywhere. But if it's just about me, it's about more than you now." He set down the shotgun and crossed to her. "You're my wife. Legal or not, that's what you are. And no one takes what's mine." The possessiveness in his voice should have scared her. Instead, Mara felt something else. Safety. Certainty. "What if there's too many of them?" she asked. "Then we make them pay for it." He went back to the guns. "Can you shoot?" "I held your rifle earlier." "That's not the same as shooting. Come here." He showed her how to hold the pistol, how to aim, how to breathe and squeeze instead of pull. They practiced with an unloaded gun until her hands stopped shaking. "If someone comes through that door who isn't me," Elias said, "you point this at their chest and fire. Don't think. Don't hesitate. Just fire." "I don't know if I can—" "You can, because the alternative is worse." Mara looked at the gun in her hands, small, heavy, deadly. "Okay," she said. They spent the rest of the day preparing. Elias boarded the windows, moved supplies away from the door, set up barricades. Mara helped where she could, her mind racing. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She'd come west to escape, to start over, and now the past was hunting her anyway. That night, Thomas died. Elias found him at dawn when he went to check the barn. He came back grim-faced and silent. "What do we do with him?" Mara asked. "Bury him when the ground thaws. For now, he stays in the barn." Elias poured coffee. Did he say anything last night when you brought him water? I didn't bring him water. You said not to go near him. Elias frowned. The cup by his body was empty. They stared at each other. Someone else was here, Mara said. Yes. Watching. Yes. Fear spiked through her. What do we do? We wait, and we stay ready. Elias checked the shotgun. They'll come soon. Today, maybe. Tomorrow, at the latest. He was right. They came at dusk. Mara was at the window when she saw them. 4 men on horseback, moving slow through the snow. They stopped at the edge of the plateau. One pointed toward the cabin. Elias, she said. He was beside her in an instant. He looked out and swore. 4, maybe more in the trees. What do they want? Same thing men like that always want. Power. He grabbed the shotgun. Stay away from the windows. If shooting starts, get behind the table and stay down. Where will you be? At the door. He looked at her. No matter what happens, don't open it. Understand? Not even if they say I'm dead. Not even if you hear me screaming. You stay inside. Elias, promise me. I promise. He nodded and moved to the door, cracked it open just enough to see out. The men approached slowly. Careful. They stopped 20 feet from the cabin. One of them called out, Elias Varn. Who's asking? Elias's voice was steady. Name's Harlan Crow. We're looking for a woman, Mara Quinn. Understand she's on your property. No one here by that name. Don't play stupid, Varn. We know she's inside. We have a legal claim to her. Contract violation. She needs to come with us. Contracts between me and her. Witnessed in Copper Hollow. Legal and binding. That contract's void. She was already promised to another man. My brother. She ran before fulfilling her obligation. Elias's voice went cold. Your brother's in Pennsylvania. This is Colorado territory. His claims don't reach here. They do when backed by territorial law. And my money. Harlan's voice hardened. Send her out, Varn. This doesn't have to get ugly. Already is ugly. You're on my land, uninvited. We can do this easy or hard. Your choice. I've made my choice. Silence. Then Harlan laughed. You'd die for some woman you barely know? I'd die for what's right. Right! Harlan's voice rose. You bought her at auction like cattle. Don't talk to me about right. She chose me. That makes her mine. Elias raised the shotgun into view. Leave. Now. Before this goes bad. There's 4 of us, Varn. 1 of you. There's 2 of us, Mara called out. She stepped to the window, pistol in hand. And I'm not going anywhere. The men shifted in their saddles. One muttered something to Harlan. Harlan's expression darkened. Last chance, Miss Quinn. Come peacefully, or we take you by force. Mara's hand shook, but her voice stayed firm. I'm not your property. I never was. Whatever contract you think you have, it's a lie. It's notarized, legal, and enforceable. Harlan pulled out a folded paper. Says here you accepted payment for passage west, payment provided by my brother. That makes you indebted. Contract says you marry him or repay triple the cost. You can't repay. So you marry. Mara's stomach twisted. She'd accepted travel money from a women's aid society, alone. She'd signed papers but hadn't read the fine print, hadn't realized. That's extortion, Elias said. It's business. Harlan tucked the paper away. Now send her out or we come in. Try it. Harlan nodded to his men. They dismounted. Drew weapons. Elias slammed the door and threw the bolt. Get down! Mara dropped behind the table. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. Outside, she heard boots crunching through snow, voices conferring. Then silence. 1 minute, 2. Then the first gunshot. It punched through the door, splintering wood. Mara screamed. Elias fired back through a gun port he'd cut in the door. The shotgun blast was deafening in the small cabin. Outside, someone yelled. More gunfire. The windows shattered despite the boards. Glass rained down. Mara covered her head. Stay down! Elias reloaded and fired again. Don't move! The shooting continued, steady, relentless. Mara heard bullets hitting the cabin walls. The door. The chimney. Something hot grazed her arm. She bit back a scream and pressed herself flatter. Then the smell hit her. Smoke. They're burning us out. Elias abandoned the door and ran to the back wall. Flames licked up the outside. We have to move. Now. Where? The root cellar. There's a tunnel. Leads to the barn. He grabbed her arm. Come on! They ran to the corner where a rug covered a trapdoor. Elias yanked it open, revealing darkness and earthen steps. Down! Go! Mara climbed down. The cellar was small and cold and smelled like dirt. Elias followed, pulling the trapdoor shut above them. He fumbled in the dark, found a lantern, lit it. Weak light revealed a narrow tunnel leading away from the cabin, barely wide enough for one person. Crawl, Elias said. Fast! Mara crawled. The tunnel was tight, damp. Roots brushed her face. Behind her, she heard Elias breathing hard. Above them, the cabin groaned. Something crashed. More shouting. Faster, Elias urged. Mara's hands scraped on stones. Her knees ached, but she kept moving. The tunnel seemed endless. Then suddenly it opened into another cellar, larger, stone-walled. They were under the barn. Elias helped her stand. There's a door, northwest corner, leads outside behind the barn. When I say go, you run for the trees. Don't stop. Don't look back. What about you? I'll be right behind you. Elias. No arguments. When I say go, you go. He checked his pistol. Ready? Mara's whole body shook, but she nodded. Elias opened the door a crack, looked out. Then he pushed it wide. Go! Mara ran, her legs pumped. Snow grabbed at her boots. Behind her she heard shouting. A gunshot. She didn't look back. The trees loomed closer, 20 feet, 10. She crashed through the first line of pines and kept running. Another gunshot, closer. Then Elias was beside her, pulling her deeper into the forest. They ran until her lungs burned, until the shouting faded, until the only sound was their ragged breathing and the crunch of snow. Elias stopped, listened, then pulled her behind a fallen log. They crouched there, gasping. Mara's arm throbbed where the bullet had grazed it. Blood soaked her sleeve. You're hit, Elias said. It's nothing. Let me see. He tore her sleeve and examined the wound. Just a graze. You'll be fine. He ripped a strip from his shirt and wrapped it tight. Can you keep moving? Yes? Good. Because they'll track us. We need distance. They moved through the forest as night fell. Slow. Careful. Behind them, orange light flickered through the trees. The cabin was fully engulfed. Everything Elias had built. Gone. Mara felt tears sting her eyes. I'm sorry. This is my fault. No talking. Save your breath. They walked for hours. The temperature dropped. Mara's feet went numb. Her injured arm screamed. But she kept moving. Finally, Elias stopped at an overhang of rock. We'll rest here. Just for a few hours. They huddled together for warmth. No fire. Too risky. Mara shivered violently. Elias wrapped his coat around both of them, pulled her close. We're going to be all right. How can you say that? They destroyed everything? They destroyed a building. We're still alive. That's what matters. Where will we go? East. There's a trading post 3 days from here. We'll hole up there until spring. Figure out our next move. They'll follow us. Let them. His voice was hard. I'm done running. Mara looked at him. In the darkness, his eyes glinted like steel. What are you going to do? Whatever I have to. He met her gaze. You're my wife, Mara. I meant what I said. No one takes what's mine. She should have been afraid of the darkness in his voice, the violence barely contained. Instead, she felt safe. She pressed closer to him, let his warmth seep into her. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For fighting for me. No one's ever done that before. Elias's arms tightened around her. Get some sleep. We move at dawn. Mara closed her eyes. Outside the overhang, snow began to fall again, soft, silent, covering their tracks. For now, they were alive. Together. And that was enough. They didn't make it 3 days. By dawn, Mara could barely walk. Her feet were frost-numb inside her boots. The wound on her arm had stopped bleeding, but throbbed with every heartbeat. Elias looked worse. His face was gray beneath the beard. His breath came shallow. How far? Mara asked through chattering teeth. 10 miles, maybe 12. He leaned against a tree. We'll make it. They didn't have a choice. The snow had stopped, but the cold deepened. Every step was agony. Mara's legs shook, her vision blurred. She stumbled, and Elias caught her. I can't, she gasped. Yes, you can. Elias. We stop, we die. Keep moving. So she moved. One foot, then the other, again, again. The world narrowed to just that. Step, breathe, step, breathe. Around noon, Elias stopped. Listen. Mara heard it. Horses. Behind them, still distant but getting closer. How many? She whispered. 2. Maybe 3. He looked around. They were in open forest. No cover, no defensible position. We can't outrun them. Then what? Elias pulled the pistol from his coat, checked the cylinder. 4 bullets left. He'd lost the shotgun in the escape. We make a stand. Here? No. Up ahead. There's a ridge, narrow approach. They'll have to come at us single file. He grabbed her hand. Come on. They ran. Mara's lungs burned, her legs screamed, but fear pushed her forward. The ridge was 100 yards of bare rock jutting from the mountainside. Below it, a steep drop into a ravine. Above, scattered boulders. Elias positioned Mara behind the largest one. Stay down. Don't move unless I tell you. Where will you be? Higher up. Better angle. He pressed the pistol into her hands. You remember what I taught you? Point and squeeze. Center mass. Don't try for the head. Too small a target. He looked at her hard. If they get past me, they won't. If they do, you shoot. Understand? Don't hesitate. Don't think. Just shoot. Mara's hands trembled. I'm scared. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He squeezed her shoulder once. Then he was gone, climbing higher among the rocks. Mara crouched behind the boulder. The pistol was heavy in her hands, cold. She could hear the horses now, closer, the jingle of tack, men's voices. Then they appeared. 3 riders, moving slow, scanning the ground for tracks. Harlan Crow rode in front. Behind him, 2 men Mara didn't recognize. All 3 carried rifles. They stopped at the base of the ridge. Harlan dismounted and studied the snow. Tracks lead up here. One of the other men frowned. It's a kill box. They could be anywhere up there. So we flushed them out. Harlan pulled his rifle. Spread out. Watch for movement. The men dismounted and started up the ridge. Slow, careful. Mara's heart hammered. She pressed herself flatter against the boulder. Her breath came in short gasps. The first man was 20 feet away when Elias fired. The shot echoed like thunder. The man dropped. His rifle clattered on rocks. The other 2 dove for cover, Harlan behind a tree, the third man behind a split boulder. Varn! Harlan shouted. You can't win this. There's more men coming. Give up the woman and we'll let you walk away. Elias's voice came from somewhere above. You're not taking her. She's not yours to keep. That contract is worth less than the paper it's written on. Elias fired again. The bullet sparked off rock near Harlan's head. This is your last warning. Leave or die. Harlan laughed. Big talk from a man with 1 gun. How many bullets you got left, Varn? 2, 3? He was guessing, but he was close. Too close. Silence stretched. Mara could hear her own pulse, the wind, nothing else. Then movement. The third man broke from cover, running low toward higher ground, trying to flank Elias. Elias fired, missed. The man kept running. Mara saw him coming, saw him angle toward the rocks where Elias hid. She raised the pistol. Her hand shook so badly she could barely aim. The man was 10 feet from Elias's position when she pulled the trigger. The recoil knocked her backward. Her ears rang. The bullet went wide, but close enough to make the man dive for cover. Elias used the distraction, shifted position, fired. This time he didn't miss. The man fell and didn't move, 2 down, 1 left. But now Harlan knew where Mara was. He fired 3 quick shots. Bullets chipped the boulder. One passed so close Mara felt the air move. She scrambled backward, slipped on ice, fell hard. The pistol skittered away. Harlan charged. He came fast, rifle raised. Mara lunged for the pistol. Her fingers closed around it. She rolled and fired blind. The bullet caught Harlan in the leg. He went down hard, cursing. Mara got to her feet. Her whole body shook. Harlan was on the ground, clutching his leg, blood spreading dark across the snow. His rifle lay 5 feet away. He looked at her. Hate twisted his face. "You stupid bitch!" Mara pointed the pistol at his chest. "Don't. You think you've won? My brother will hunt you down. Your brother's in Pennsylvania, and I'm done running." Her finger tightened on the trigger. "You came to my home, burned it, tried to kill the only person who's ever—" Her voice cracked. "You don't get to take that from me." Harlan's eyes widened. "Wait!" She fired. The shot was loud in the sudden quiet. Harlan jerked once, then went still. Mara stood there. The pistol hung loose in her hand. Smoke curled from the barrel. She couldn't feel her fingers, couldn't feel anything. Footsteps crunched behind her. She spun, raising the gun. Elias caught her wrist gently. "It's me. It's just me." Mara stared at him, at Harlan's body, at the blood on her hands. "I killed him. Yes. I didn't mean to. You did what you had to." Elias pried the pistol from her grip. "You saved both our lives." "But Mara's legs gave out. Elias caught her before she hit the ground. She pressed her face against his chest and shook. Not crying, just shaking, like something inside her had come loose. Elias held her, said nothing, just held her until the shaking stopped. Finally, Mara pulled back, looked at the bodies. 3 men dead, because of her. "What do we do now?" she whispered. "We keep moving. The trading post is still a day away." Elias retrieved the rifles from the dead men. Ammunition, supplies. He worked quickly, efficiently. "Take what we need, leave the rest." "What about them?" "Scavengers will find them, or the snow will cover them." He met her eyes. "This is the mountain, Mara. It takes what it wants." They took the horses. Mara rode one, Elias the other. They moved fast now. No more creeping through snow, just hard riding. By nightfall, they saw lights ahead. The trading post. A rough collection of buildings huddled against the mountain. Smoke rose from chimneys. Lamplight glowed in windows. They rode into the yard and dismounted. Mara's legs barely held her. A man emerged from the largest building, older, gray-haired. He took one look at them and nodded. "Elias Varn. Heard you were dead." "Not yet, Charlie." Charlie's gaze moved to Mara, took in the blood on her sleeve, the hollow look in her eyes. "Trouble? Some. The kind that follows?" "Not anymore." Charlie grunted. "Come inside, you look half frozen." The trading post was warm and smelled like wood smoke and coffee. A few trappers sat at rough tables. They glanced at Elias and Mara but said nothing. Charlie led them to a back room, small, clean, a bed, a wash basin, a stove. "You can stay here long as you need," he said. No questions." "Appreciate it." Charlie left. Mara sank onto the bed. Every muscle in her body ached. Her arm throbbed. Her head pounded. Elias built a fire in the stove, put water on to heat. When it was warm, he brought it to her with clean cloth. "Let me see your arm." Mara unwrapped the makeshift bandage. The wound looked angry, red, probably infected. Elias cleaned it carefully. His hands were steady, gentle. When he was done, he wrapped it in fresh cloth and tied it off. "You should rest," he said. "I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see—" She stopped. "Harlan?" "Yes." Elias sat beside her on the bed. "First man I killed, I was 19, Confederate soldier. He was maybe 17, had a picture of a girl in his pocket." He stared at his hands. "I couldn't sleep for weeks, kept seeing his face." "Does it get easier?" "No, but you learn to carry it." He looked at her. "What you did today, that took courage." "It didn't feel like courage, it felt like survival. That's what courage is. Doing what needs doing even when you're terrified." Mara leaned against him, let his solidity anchor her. "What happens now?" "We stay here through winter. Come spring, we go back to Thunder Ridge. There's nothing left. The cabin can be rebuilt. I did it once. I can do it again." His arm came around her shoulders. "If you want to." "What if I don't? Then we go somewhere else. Start over." He turned to face her. "But I'm not letting you go, Mara. Not unless you want to go. She looked at him, really looked, at the scars and the gray in his hair and the hard lines carved by years of solitude, at the man who'd fought for her, killed for her, given up everything rather than hand her over. I don't want to go, she said. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Something shifted in his expression. Relief, maybe, or hope. He cupped her face in his rough hands. Then we rebuild. Together. Together, Mara echoed. He kissed her. Soft at first, then deeper. She kissed him back, tasting smoke and sweat and survival. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. We should sleep, Elias said roughly. Yes, but neither moved. They sat there on the bed, foreheads touching, just breathing. Outside, wind rattled the windows. Snow began to fall again, but inside the small room, warmth spread. They lay down together. Elias pulled the blankets over them. Mara curled against his side, her head on his chest. His heartbeat was steady beneath her ear. Elias? She whispered. Yeah? Thank you. For what? For seeing me, on that platform, for choosing me when no one else would. His arm tightened around her. Best choice I ever made. She smiled in the darkness, closed her eyes. And for the first time since the attack, she slept. The days at the trading post blurred together. Mara's arm healed slowly. The infection fought back before finally surrendering. Elias spent his time trading pelts for supplies, building their stores for the journey back to Thunder Ridge. Charlie asked no questions. The other trappers minded their business. It was that kind of place. 2 weeks in, a rider came through, brought news from Copper Hollow. Harlan Crow's men had been found dead. The town was in an uproar. Search parties organized, bounties posted. Elias listened without expression. Then he went back to their room and started cleaning weapons. They'll come looking, Mara said. Let them. Elias, I'm done hiding, done running. He looked at her. You want to run, I understand, but I'm staying. This is my land, my life. No one drives me off it. Mara thought about Pennsylvania, about the factory and the boarding house and the man who'd tried to own her, about standing on that auction platform while strangers laughed. She thought about the cabin on Thunder Ridge, the trap line, the quiet mornings drinking coffee by the fire, the first time Elias had smiled at her. I'm staying too, she said. You don't have to. Yes, I do. She crossed to him, took his hands. You said I was yours. Well, you're mine too, and I'm not letting anyone take that away. Elias pulled her close, held her tight. We're going to have to fight. Then we fight. People will die. People already have. He pulled back to look at her. You've changed. So have you. No, I'm still the same broken bastard I always was. You're not broken. You're just bent. She touched his face. And so am I. Maybe that's why we fit. He kissed her, hard, desperate. She kissed him back with the same intensity. When they broke apart, both were flushed. We should leave soon, Elias said, before the passes close completely. How soon? 3 days, maybe 4. What do we need? Supplies, weapons, and luck. They spent the next days preparing. Elias traded for ammunition, rope, tools, food. Mara helped pack and organize. They worked side by side, barely speaking but moving in sync. On the third night, Charlie knocked on their door. Got news. Elias opened it. What kind? The kind you won't like. Sheriff from Copper Hollow is riding up here. Should arrive tomorrow. He's got questions about Harlan Crow. Elias's jaw tightened. How many men with him? 4, maybe 5. Armed? They're a posse. What do you think? Elias looked at Mara. We leave tonight. In the dark? Charlie frowned. That's suicide. Trail's barely passable in daylight. We don't have a choice. You could talk to the sheriff. Explain what? That I killed 3 men in self-defense? That my wife shot the brother of a rich landowner? Elias shook his head. Law doesn't work that way. Not for people like us. Charlie sighed. I can't stop you, but I think you're making a mistake. Won't be my first. Elias turned to Mara. Pack what you can carry. We ride in an hour. They left under a crescent moon. The trail was treacherous in the dark. The horses picked their way carefully, hooves slipping on ice. Mara clung to the saddle, praying they didn't fall. Behind them, the trading post lights faded. Ahead, darkness and mountains. They rode until dawn. Then they stopped to rest the horses and eat cold jerky, colder water. How far to Thunder Ridge? Mara asked. 2 days if we push hard. And if they follow, then we get there first and prepare. Elias stood. Come on, we're losing light. They rode hard. The landscape changed. Trees thinned. Rock showed through snow. The air grew colder, sharper. On the second day, they saw smoke ahead. Elias reined in, stared. That's coming from Thunder Ridge. The cabin? What's left of it? He urged his horse forward, faster now. Mara followed. They crested the final rise and stopped. The cabin was gone, burned to the foundation. Black timbers jutted from snow like broken teeth. The barn had collapsed. The fence was down. But smoke rose from the ruins. Fresh smoke. Someone was there. Elias dismounted, drew his rifle. Stay here. Like hell. He started to argue, stopped, nodded. Stay behind me. They approached on foot, quiet, careful. The snow muffled their steps. As they got closer, Mara saw movement in the ruins. A figure crouched by what used to be the hearth, digging through ash. Elias raised the rifle. Don't move. The figure froze, then stood slowly, hands raised. It was a woman, young, maybe 20, dressed in ragged clothes and a man's coat too large for her frame. Her face was dirty, scared. Who are you? Elias demanded. Mary Pritchard. The girl's voice shook. From Copper Hollow. I didn't mean to. I was just looking for shelter. Why are you here? I ran away. From the town. From... She stopped, swallowed. From the men who burned your cabin. They're saying you killed Harlan Crow, that there's a bounty. There is, Mara said quietly. We did kill him. Mary's eyes widened. Then it's true? All of it? Depends what you heard. That Harlan tried to take you back, that you fought, that... She looked at the ruins. That you burned rather than surrender. We didn't burn, Elias said. We escaped, and we're not surrendering now. Mary looked between them. They'll come for you. The sheriff. Harlan's men. They won't stop. Let them come. You can't fight them all. Watch us. Elias lowered the rifle slightly. Why are you really here, Mary? The girl's face crumpled. I had nowhere else to go. Mrs. Pritchard, my aunt, she threw me out when I refused to marry one of Harlan's associates. Said I was ungrateful, worthless. Tears streaked through the dirt on her face. I heard about you. About how you stood up to them. I thought, maybe... She didn't finish. Didn't need to. Mara looked at Elias, saw the same recognition in his eyes. This girl was them. Scared, desperate, looking for a place to belong. You can stay, Mara said. Elias shot her a look. Mara. She stays. We're not turning away someone who needs help. Mara walked to Mary. Can you work? The girl nodded quickly. Yes, I can cook, clean, sew, whatever you need. Good, because we're rebuilding and we'll need all the help we can get. Mary's face flooded with relief. Thank you. Thank you so much. Don't thank us yet. You'll earn your keep. Mara looked at the ruins, at the work ahead. We all will. Elias sighed but didn't argue. Fine, but if you bring trouble, I won't, I swear. See that you don't. He turned to survey the plateau. We'll need to clear the site, salvage what we can, start cutting new timber. Before the sheriff comes? Mara asked. Especially before the sheriff comes. Elias's expression hardened. Because when he gets here, I want him to see what he's up against. Not 2 desperate people running, but 3 determined people building. Mara smiled. 3 people defending their home. Exactly. They got to work. The next days were brutal. They cleared debris, sorted through ash for anything salvageable. Found tools, nails, the iron stove mostly intact. The cold was relentless, but they kept moving. Mary proved useful, strong, uncomplaining. She worked as hard as either of them and asked for nothing. At night, they huddled in the barn, the only structure still standing. built a small fire, shared what food they had, planned. "They'll come soon," Elias said on the fourth night. "Sheriff won't wait long." "How many?" Mary asked. "At least 5. Maybe more if Harlan's remaining men join up. Can we hold them off?" "If we're smart." Elias drew in the dirt with a stick. "The plateau is defensible. Narrow approach. We control the high ground. If we fortify the barn, set up positions, they'll just burn us out again," Mara said. "Not if we're ready this time. I've been thinking—" He sketched more lines. "We dig a fire break, trenches around the barn, fill them with water. It'll freeze, but that's fine. Harder to burn ice than wood." "That's a lot of work," Mary said. "Then we better start now." They worked through the night, digging, hauling water from the creek. By dawn, shallow trenches circled the barn. They filled them and let the cold do the rest. 2 days later, the sheriff came. Mara saw them first. 6 riders coming up the trail, moving slow, deliberate. "Elias!" He emerged from the barn, looked, nodded. "Positions, like we practiced." Mara took the north window, Mary the south, Elias the door. They'd fortified every opening, stacked logs for barricades, prepared firing positions. The riders stopped at the edge of the plateau. The sheriff, a barrel-chested man with a thick mustache, raised his hand. "Elias Varn, I'm Sheriff Dawson. I need to speak with you about the deaths of Harlan Crow and his men." Elias cracked the door. "Speak. Face to face, unarmed. No. Then I'll have to assume you're guilty. Assume what you want. You're not taking us." Dawson's expression hardened. "I have warrants, legal and binding, for you and Mara Quinn. Your warrants don't mean anything up here." "Colorado territorial law says otherwise." Dawson gestured to his men. They spread out, surrounding the barn. "Last chance, Varn, come peacefully." "Go to hell," Dawson sighed. Drew his weapon. "Then we do this the hard way." The shooting started, but this time Mara was ready. She fired through the window. Careful shots, measured. One of Dawson's men went down. Elias fired from the door. Another man fell. The sheriff and his remaining men dove for cover, returned fire. Bullets thunked into the barn walls. But the walls held. The fortifications worked. The firefight lasted 10 minutes. Then the sheriff called a ceasefire. "Hold fire!" Dawson shouted. "Hold fire!" The shooting stopped. Smoke drifted. Blood darkened the snow. "Varn, we can end this. Just talk." Elias reloaded. "Talk about what?" "What happened with Harlan Crow, your side of it? He attacked us, burned our home. We defended ourselves. That's not how his men tell it. His men are liars." "Then prove it. Come down. Face trial." "So you can hang us?" Mara called out. "No, thank you." Dawson hesitated. "I'm offering you a chance at justice." "We already got justice." Mara's voice rang clear. "When I put a bullet in Harlan Crow's chest." Silence. Then Dawson spoke again. Quieter now. "Did he deserve it?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because he tried to make me property. Because he thought a piece of paper made him own me." Mara's hand shook, but her voice stayed steady. "I'm done being owned." More silence. The sheriff's men shifted uneasily. Finally, Dawson spoke. "If I walk away now, you have to promise me something." "What?" "That you'll stay up here. No coming to town. No trouble." Elias and Mara exchanged glances. "Agreed," Elias shouted. "We stay on the mountain. You stay in town. And no more killing. Only in self-defense." Dawson stood slowly. His men followed. "I'm trusting you, Varn. Don't make me regret it." "You won't." The sheriff mounted his horse, looked at his wounded men, then at the barn, at the blood in the snow. "This country's changing," he said. "Laws coming whether we like it or not. But maybe—" He paused. "Maybe there's still room for people like you, out here, where nobody bothers you." "That's all we want," Mara said. "To be left alone." Dawson nodded. "Then stay alone. And stay alive." He rode away. His men followed, carrying their wounded. Mara, Elias, and Mary stood in the barn doorway and watched them go. When they were finally out of sight, Mara's legs gave out. She sat hard on the ground, started laughing, high, a little hysterical. "We did it," she gasped. "We actually did it." Elias sat beside her. "We did. They're gone. For now. For always." Mara looked at him. "He believed us." "He believed you. What happens now?" Elias looked at the ruins, at the work ahead, at Mary standing awkward and hopeful in the doorway, at Mara beside him, bloody and exhausted and alive. "Now we rebuild," he said. "For real this time." Mara leaned her head on his shoulder. Together. Together. They sat there in the snow, in the silence, in the aftermath of violence, and for the first time felt something like peace settle over Thunder Ridge. The peace didn't last long. Not because the sheriff came back, but because winter hit harder than anything before. 3 days after Dawson left, a blizzard rolled in. It buried the plateau under 5 feet of snow. The wind screamed for 48 hours straight. Inside the barn, Mara, Elias, and Mary huddled around a small fire, rationing food and waiting for it to pass. When the storm finally broke, they emerged to find the world transformed. Everything was white, silent, alien. "We can't rebuild in this," Mary said, her breath puffing white. "No," Elias agreed, "but we can prepare. Cut timber, gather supplies. When spring comes, we hit the ground running." So that's what they did. Every day they worked. Elias felled trees and stripped them. Mara and Mary hauled smaller branches for firewood. They sorted through the cabin ruins, salvaging nails, hinges, anything metal that had survived the fire. It was brutal work. Mara's hands cracked and bled despite the gloves. Her back ached constantly, but she kept going, because what else was there to do? Quit? Run? She'd done enough of both. One night, 3 weeks into winter, Mary asked the question that had been hanging in the air since she arrived. "Why did you choose this?" She was mending a shirt by firelight, her fingers nimble with the needle. "Living up here? So far from everything?" Elias looked up from the trap he was repairing. "Didn't choose it. It chose me." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I have." He set down the trap. "After the war, I couldn't be around people. Too much noise, too many expectations. I came up here because it was quiet, because nobody asked me to be anything except alive." Mary turned to Mara. "What about you?" Mara thought about Pennsylvania, about Edmund Crow's grip on her arm, about the auction platform, about standing there while strangers decided her worth. "I was tired of being invisible," she said finally. "In the city, I was just another woman, replaceable, forgettable. Up here," she looked around the barn, at the work they'd done, at the life they were building. "Up here, I matter. What I do matters. I'm not just existing, I'm living." Mary nodded slowly. "I understand that." "Do you?" Elias asked. "Because living up here means hardship, isolation, no dances or social calls or easy comforts. It means waking up cold and going to bed hungry and working until your bones ache." "Still want to stay?" Mary met his gaze. "More than anything." "Why?" "Because down there," she gestured vaguely toward where Copper Hollow lay beyond the mountains. "Down there, I was a burden, a mouth to feed, a problem to solve by marrying me off to whoever would take me. But here, I'm useful. You need me, and I need that, to be needed." Mara felt something shift in her chest. Recognition, kinship. "Then you stay. As long as you want. Even if trouble comes." "Especially then." Elias didn't argue, just went back to his trap. But Mara saw the corner of his mouth twitch, almost a smile. The winter stretched on. January bled into February. The cold was relentless. Some mornings, the water barrel inside the barn was frozen solid. They had to melt snow just to drink. Food ran low. They'd salvaged what they could from the cabin stores, but it wasn't enough for 3 people. Elias started ranging farther on the trapline, sometimes gone for 2 days at a time. He came back with rabbits, a fox, once a small deer, but it wasn't enough. One night, Elias came back empty-handed and exhausted. He sat by the fire and stared into the flames. "The game's moving down the mountain," he said, following the warmth. "We're running out of options." "How long can we last?" Mara asked. 3 weeks? Maybe 4 if we cut rations." "And then?" "Then one of us has to go to the trading post, trade for supplies." "I'll go," Mary offered. No. Elias shook his head. Trail's too dangerous, and you don't know it. Then you go, Mara said. Can't. Someone needs to stay and protect you two. From what? The sheriff's not coming back. Harlan's dead. What's left to protect us from? Winter? Animals. Other trappers who might hear two women are alone up here. Elias's voice was firm. I'm not leaving you. They argued about it for days. Finally, Mara made the decision for them. She woke before dawn on a Tuesday, packed food, took one of the horses, and left a note. Gone to trading post. Back in 5 days. Don't follow. M. When Elias found the note, he swore so loud Mary dropped the pan she was holding. She took the sorrel, Mary said, looking out at the empty paddock area they'd cleared. And the rifle. Damn woman. But there was no anger in Elias's voice, just worry, and maybe a little pride. She doesn't know the trail well enough. She knows it well enough to try. Elias stood at the barn door, staring at the tracks leading away from the plateau. His jaw worked. Then he turned back inside. Nothing to do but wait. And if she doesn't come back? She'll come back. How do you know? Because she's too stubborn to die. He sat heavily on a crate. And because she promised. Mara made it to the trading post in 3 days. The journey was harder than she'd expected. Twice she lost the trail and had to backtrack. Once the horse threw a shoe and she had to walk 5 miles, leading it by the reins. But she made it. Charlie looked up from the bar when she walked in. His eyebrows rose. Mara Quinn? Heard you were dead. Heard wrong. Where's Elias? Thunder Ridge with Mary Pritchard. Mary? Mrs. Pritchard's niece? Charlie poured her coffee without asking. Thought she ran off. She did. Found us. Mara wrapped her hands around the cup. Warmth spread through her frozen fingers. We need supplies, food mostly, some cloth if you have it, nails, tools. You rebuilding? Yes. Sheriff, no. Sheriff said we could stay if we stayed out of his way. Mara met Charlie's gaze. We're staying, Charlie grunted. Stubborn, like Elias. He disappeared into the back room and returned with a ledger. What can you trade? Mara pulled out a pouch. Inside were the pelts Elias had been saving. 3 marten, 2 fox, and a beaver. Good quality. Charlie examined them, nodded. This'll cover basics. You want luxuries, you'll need more. Basics are fine. He packed supplies while Mara drank coffee and thawed out. Around her, trappers came and went. Most ignored her. A few stared. One man, younger, drunk, approached. You're the woman who killed Harlan Crow. It wasn't a question. Mara looked at him. Yes. Heard you shot him while he was unarmed. You heard wrong. He had a rifle. Still, killing a man, that's not right for a woman. Mara set down her coffee. Neither is being dragged back to marry someone against your will, but here we are. The man's face flushed. You should be in jail. Maybe, but I'm not. She stood, looked him in the eye, and if you've got a problem with that, you're welcome to try and do something about it. The bar went quiet. The man looked around, saw no support, saw Charlie watching with crossed arms, saw Mara, small but unflinching. He backed down, muttered something, and left. Charlie chuckled. You've got spine, girl. I'll give you that. Spine's all I've got left. That's enough. In this country, spine's worth more than gold. He handed her the packed supplies. This should get you through to spring. You need more. You know where to find me. Thank you, Charlie. Don't thank me. Thank Elias. He's the one who dragged you into this mess. Mara smiled. He didn't drag me. I chose it. Same difference up here. She left at dawn the next morning. The ride back was slower with the loaded horse. She took her time, rested when she needed to, kept the rifle close. On the second day, she saw smoke ahead. Too much smoke for a campfire. Her heart hammered. She urged the horse faster. As she crested the ridge above Thunder Ridge, she saw it. The barn was burning. No, not burning. Someone was burning something outside the barn. A controlled fire. And around it, people. Mara rode hard down the slope. As she got closer, she saw Elias and Mary, and 3 others, men she didn't recognize. Elias saw her coming. Relief flooded his face, then concern. He raised a hand, signaling her to slow down. Mara reined in at the edge of the clearing. The three men turned to look at her. They were rough-looking, armed, dangerous. "Who are they?" she asked, hand drifting toward the rifle. "Trappers," Elias said. "From up north. Heard about the fight with the sheriff. Came to help." One of the men, older with a scarred face, nodded. "Name's Cole. This is Jim and Randall. We don't hold with rich men thinking they own people." He spat into the snow. "Figured you could use hands for rebuilding." Mara looked at Elias. He gave a small nod. These men were safe. She dismounted. "We can pay in pelts, and labor when the cabin's done." "Don't need pay," Jim said. He was younger, missing 2 fingers on his left hand. "Just need to know we're building something worth a damn." "We are," Mara said firmly. "Then let's build." Over the next weeks, the plateau transformed. With 5 sets of hands working, progress was rapid. They laid a new foundation, raised walls, built a roof frame. It wasn't the same cabin. It was bigger, stronger. They incorporated lessons learned from the first fire. Stone walls on 2 sides, fire breaks, multiple exits. Mara worked alongside the men, hauling logs, mixing mortar, climbing scaffolding despite her fear of heights. Nobody told her to do lighter work. Nobody suggested she stay inside. She was part of the crew. Mary proved invaluable too. She kept everyone fed, tended injuries, organized supplies. She had a mind for logistics that surprised everyone, including herself. "I used to help my uncle run his store," she explained one night, before he died and left everything to my aunt. "She didn't want a woman handling money, so she pushed me out." "Her loss," Cole said. "Our gain," Elias added. By mid-March, the cabin had walls and a roof. By early April, they'd installed windows and a door. The stove went in last, its iron bulk a reassuring presence. The day they finished, they stood in the new main room and looked around. It wasn't fancy, the floors were rough, the walls unfinished, but it was solid. It was theirs. "We did it," Mary whispered. "Yes, we did," Mara said. Elias said nothing, just walked to the window and looked out at the plateau, at the mountains beyond, at the life they'd built from ash and stubbornness. That night, they had a celebration. Cole produced a bottle of whiskey from somewhere. They passed it around, toasting their success. "To Thunder Ridge," Jim said. "To surviving winter," Randall added. "To people who fight back," Cole said, looking at Mara. She met his gaze, nodded, drank. Later, when the men had bedded down in the barn and Mary was asleep in her corner of the cabin, Elias and Mara sat by the fire. "They'll leave soon," Elias said. "Cole mentioned heading north come May." "I know. We'll be alone again, just us and Mary." "That's not alone. That's family." Elias looked at her. "Is that what this is? What else would you call it?" "I don't know. I've never had this before." He stared into the flames. "People who stay, who choose to stay." Mara took his hand. "I'm not going anywhere, Elias. I told you that." "You could. Spring's here. Passes are opening. You could ride down to Copper Hollow, catch a train east, start over somewhere safe." "Why would I do that?" "Because you've seen what life up here costs. Blood, pain, fear. You could have easier." "I don't want easier." Mara squeezed his hand. "I want real. And this," she gestured at the cabin, at the mountains, at him. "This is the realest thing I've ever had." Elias's throat worked. "I'm not good at this. At saying what I feel." "Then don't say it. Show me." He pulled her close, kissed her, slow and deep and full of everything he couldn't put into words. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "I love you," he said. Simple, direct, true. Mara felt tears sting her eyes. "I love you too." "Even though I'm broken?" "You're not broken. You're scarred. There's a difference." She touched his face. "Scars mean you survived, that you fought and won. I'll take scars over perfection any day." He kissed her again. And for the first time since the war, Elias Varn felt something he'd thought was lost forever. Hope. The men left in early May. They packed their gear, said their goodbyes, and headed north toward whatever waited there. Cole was the last to go. He shook Elias's hand, nodded to Mary, and turned to Mara. "You're tougher than you look," he said. "So are you." He smiled. If you ever need help, send word. We'll come. I'll remember that. He rode away. The three of them watched until he disappeared into the trees. What now? Mary asked. Now we live, Mara said. And they did. Spring exploded across the plateau. Green pushed through snow. Wildflowers bloomed. The creek ran high with melt. They planted a garden, expanded the barn, built a chicken coop and stocked it with hens from the trading post. Life fell into a rhythm. Wake, work, eat, sleep, repeat. It was simple, hard, good. One afternoon in late June, Mary came running from the tree line. Riders! 3 of them! Elias grabbed his rifle. Mara took position at the window. But as the riders got closer, Elias lowered his weapon. It's Sheriff Dawson. The sheriff rode into the yard with 2 deputies. He looked tired, older than the last time they'd seen him. Varn, Mrs. Varn, he nodded to them. Miss Pritchard. Sheriff, Elias said warily. What brings you up here? News, thought you should hear it direct. Dawson dismounted. Edmund Crow died 3 weeks ago. Influenza. Mara felt something cold settle in her stomach. And his will left everything to his brother Harlan. But since Harlan's dead, it all goes to the territorial government. They're auctioning off the land, breaking up the holdings. What does that mean for us? Elias asked. Means the pressure's off. Nobody's coming after you anymore. The contracts Harlan held, including yours, Mrs. Varn, they're void, declared unenforceable by the territorial judge. Mara's knees went weak. I'm free? You were always free. Law just finally caught up. Dawson pulled out a paper. This is official. Your marriage to Elias Varn is recognized as legal and binding. You're clear of all claims. Elias took the paper, read it, then handed it to Mara. She read it twice, 3 times. The words blurred. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me. Thank the judge who had the spine to call it what it was. Extortion. Dawson mounted his horse again. You folks stay out of trouble. I won't have reason to come back up here. That's the plan, Elias said. Dawson tipped his hat. Good luck to you, all of you. He rode away. When he was gone, Mara looked at the paper in her hands. Official, legal, free. She started crying. Not sad tears. Relief. Joy. The kind of crying that comes when pressure you've carried so long you forgot it was there suddenly lifts. Elias pulled her close. Mary joined them. The 3 of them stood in the yard holding each other, letting the weight of the past finally fall away. That night, they celebrated properly. Mara made bread. Mary roasted the chicken they'd been saving. Elias opened the last bottle of whiskey. They ate until they were full, drank until they were warm, talked until the fire burned low. What will you do? Mara asked Mary. Now that it's settled, you could go back to town. Start over properly. Mary shook her head. Why would I leave? This is home. You're sure? It's hard up here, lonely sometimes. Everywhere's lonely if you're with the wrong people, but here, Mary looked at them both. Here I'm with the right ones. Mara smiled. Then you stay, as long as you want. Forever then. Forever's a long time. I know. Mary raised her glass. To forever, and to the family we choose. They drank to that, and to the mountains, and to the cabin that had risen from ash. Summer deepened, the garden flourished, the chickens laid eggs, the trapline produced steady income. They made trips to the trading post, traded pelts for supplies. Slowly built up their stores for the next winter. One evening in August, Mara stood at the edge of the plateau watching the sunset. The sky was on fire, orange and pink and gold. The mountain stood black against it. Elias came up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist. What are you thinking about? The auction, that day in Copper Hollow. Regret it? Not for a second. She turned in his arms. You know what I realized? What? I was never unwanted. I was just waiting for the right person to see me. She touched his face. You saw me, when nobody else did. You saw what I could be. No. I saw what you were. Strong, stubborn, willing to endure. He kissed her forehead. You did the rest yourself. We did it together. Yes, we did. They stood there as the sun dropped below the mountains. as the stars came out, as the world turned from day to night. Behind them, the cabin glowed with lamplight. Inside, Mary was singing while she worked. The sound drifted out into the evening, sweet, hopeful. "Do you ever think about the future?" Mara asked. "Every day? What do you see?" "This, you, Mary, the mountain, work that matters, people who stay." He pulled her closer. "Everything I never thought I'd have." "Me too." They went inside. The cabin was warm, welcoming, home. That night, as Mara lay beside Elias listening to him breathe, she thought about the journey that had brought her here. The factory, the train, the auction platform, the fear and shame and desperate hope. All of it had led to this. To a man who chose her when nobody else would. To a life built on rock and stubbornness. To a place where she mattered not because of what she could give, but because of who she was. She'd come west looking for dignity, for a chance, for something more than survival. She'd found everything she'd been searching for, and more. She'd found herself. As summer turned to fall, they prepared for the next winter, cut wood, preserved food, reinforced the cabin. But this time, there was no fear, just readiness. On the first day of snow, Mara stood in the doorway and watched the flakes fall. Soft, gentle, beautiful. Elias joined her. "Ready? For winter?" "For everything." Mara smiled. "I was born ready. Just took me a while to figure it out. And now? Now I know who I am, what I'm capable of." She looked at him. "I'm not the woman who stood on that platform. I'm not even the woman you brought up here. I'm someone new, someone stronger. You were always strong." "Maybe, but now I believe it." He kissed her. Mary called them to dinner. They went inside, closing the door against the cold. Outside, snow-covered Thunder Ridge buried the scars, made everything clean and new. But inside the cabin, fire burned warm, food steamed on the table. 3 people sat together, talking and laughing and planning for tomorrow. They'd fought for this, bled for it, killed for it, and they'd won, not because they were perfect, not because the path was easy, but because they refused to quit, because they believed they deserved better, because they chose each other when the world said they weren't worth choosing. That was the truth Mara carried forward, not that she was rescued, not that she was saved, but that she saved herself. With help, yes, with love and loyalty and shared struggle. But ultimately, her survival was her own. She was no one's property, no one's burden, no one's unwanted. She was Mara Varn, wife, partner, survivor, fighter, and she was exactly enough. The fire crackled. Mary told a joke. Elias laughed, a rare, beautiful sound. Mara joined in, her voice bright and free. Outside, the mountains stood eternal. Inside, 3 people built a life worth living. And somewhere in the balance between the two, Mara finally found what she'd been searching for all along. Home. Not a place, but a feeling. The knowledge that she belonged, that she was seen, that she mattered. The rest was just details. Spring would come again, and summer and fall. The seasons would turn, they'd work, they'd struggle, they'd endure. But they'd do it together, as equals, as family. And that made all the difference.